I'll never forget the call that came through dispatch that night. July 18th, 2018. A trucker had found a girl on Route 49, bleeding and barefoot, saying she'd escaped from a cabin in the woods. When I arrived at the hospital, I expected a runaway or maybe a domestic situation. What I didn't expect was Emily Alvarez, 12 years old, covered in cuts and bruises, but with eyes that burned with something I'd rarely seen in victims: determination. She looked at me and said, "I need to tell you everything before he finds another girl." In my 20 years as a detective, I'd worked hundreds of cases, but nothing prepared me for what Emily was about to reveal. Emily had vanished 8 days earlier on a Wednesday afternoon. Her mother, Carla, thought she was at her friend Becca's house. When Emily didn't show up for dinner, Carla called Becca's mom. Emily had never arrived. By 7 that evening, the whole neighborhood was searching. We combed the woods behind the school, checked every friend's house, knocked on doors until midnight. The FBI got involved on day 3. We found nothing. No witnesses. No evidence. Just a 12-year-old girl who disappeared like smoke. Her mother sobbed on the news every night, begging for her return. The town hung yellow ribbons. We feared the worst. In the hospital room, Emily told me how it happened. She'd taken her usual shortcut through the woods between Maple Street and Oak Ridge Road. A man stepped out wearing a tan uniform and a badge. He had kind eyes, she said. He told her there'd been an accident, that her mother was hurt and asking for her. Emily's heart had dropped. She followed him to a white van parked on a service road. The moment she climbed in, he locked the doors. She realized too late the badge was fake. His name was Martin Bell, 43 years old, and he'd been watching Emily for months. Bell drove for nearly an hour before stopping at a shack deep in the Ozark woods. No electricity, no running water, windows boarded tight. He zip-tied her wrists and ankles, then locked her in a back room that smelled like mold and rust. He fed her crackers once a day, threatened her constantly, told her nobody was looking for her, that her mother didn't care, that screaming would only make things worse. But Emily didn't break. She studied everything. The door had 2 locks. One needed a key, the other just a latch. She counted his footsteps when he left, memorized the spacing between the boards on the walls. On the 8th night, Bell made a mistake. He'd been drinking. Emily could smell it on him. When he tied her restraints, he didn't pull the zip cord tight enough. She waited until she heard his truck pull away, then twisted her wrists until the plastic dug into her skin. It took 20 minutes of pain and blood, but she got one hand free. She untied the other, then kicked at the boarded window until one plank cracked. She squeezed through the gap, tearing her shirt and scraping her ribs. Then she ran. No shoes, no idea where she was. Just ran toward what looked like moonlight through the trees. Emily sprinted through 2 miles of forest in the dark. Branches tore her arms. Rocks cut her feet. She fell twice but got back up. Finally, she hit a dirt road and kept running until headlights appeared. A semi-truck. She waved her arms and screamed. The driver, a man named Joe Hendricks, nearly swerved off the road. He pulled over, saw her condition, and immediately called 911. He gave her his jacket and a bottle of water, told her she was safe now. Emily sat in the cab shaking, bleeding, crying, but she didn't stop talking. She told Joe everything, and when I arrived 20 minutes later, she told me too. What Emily said next changed everything. She looked me in the eye and said, "He told me I wasn't the first. He said there were other girls before me. And he said the police always looked the other way." My blood went cold. She continued, saying Bell had bragged about his friends who helped him, men in the community who shared information, who protected each other. Emily didn't have all the names, but she remembered 2. One was a school board member. Another attended her church. I radioed for backup immediately. If Emily was right, this wasn't just an abduction. It was something much worse. We raided Bell's property at dawn. What we found made me sick. File cabinets full of photographs, videos on hard drives, lists of names, girls, locations, dates going back 20 years. Bell had been part of a network, a localized trafficking ring operating right under our noses. They groomed victims through youth groups, summer camps, after-school programs. Anywhere children trusted adults. The men rotated girls between them, threatened them into silence, and relied on their reputations to shield them. Teachers, coaches, a youth pastor, even a part-time sheriff's deputy. 14 men in total, and Emily had just blown it wide open. The community reacted with shock and denial. People couldn't believe good men like Martin Bell could do such things. He'd been a youth pastor for 12 years, volunteered at the food bank. Neighbors described him as friendly and helpful. But that was the point. Predators don't look like monsters. They look like the people you trust. They coach your kids. They lead prayers. They smile at church picnics. And when someone speaks up, they're dismissed because he would never do that. But Emily didn't care what people believed. She had the truth, and she wasn't afraid to say it out loud anymore. Over the next 6 months, the FBI uncovered the full scope of the operation. Bell and his associates have been active since 1998. They used code words, burner phones, encrypted messaging apps. They selected victims carefully, girls from broken homes, girls without strong support systems, girls who wouldn't be believed if they spoke up. And it had worked for decades. Until Emily, one girl who refused to disappear quietly. One girl who escaped, survived, and talked. Her courage gave other survivors the strength to come forward. 6 more girls contacted authorities after seeing Emily's story on the news. Each one added another piece to the case. The trials began in early 2019. Emily testified in 3 separate federal cases. I sat in the courtroom and watched her take the stand. No longer the terrified girl I'd met in the hospital, but a survivor who knew her power. She spoke clearly, answered every question, looked each man in the eye as she described what they'd done. Defense attorneys tried to rattle her. They questioned her memory, suggested she was confused, but Emily never wavered. When one lawyer asked if she was certain about Bell's identity, she said, "I'll never forget his face, and I'll never let you forget what he did." The evidence was overwhelming. Forensic teams matched DNA. Digital analysts recovered deleted files. Other survivors corroborated Emily's testimony. Martin Bell was convicted on 37 counts, including kidnapping, assault, and child exploitation. The judge sentenced him to 156 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole. 4 other men took plea deals to avoid trial. 2 more were convicted and received sentences ranging from 20 to 60 years. 2 remained fugitives, last spotted near the Mexican border. But the sentences didn't erase the damage. Families were shattered, trust was broken, and a town had to face an ugly truth it had ignored for too long. What haunted me most wasn't just the crimes. It was the silence. How many people had known something was wrong, but said nothing? Teachers who noticed girls withdrawing, but didn't push. Parents who heard rumors, but dismissed them. A few brave souls had tried reporting suspicions over the years, only to be intimidated or ignored. One woman told me she'd gone to police in 2007 about Bell, but the officer, who turned out to be part of the network, told her she was spreading lies. She never reported again. That's how predators survive. They build walls of silence. They rely on doubt, on reputation, on fear. Emily became a symbol, not just of survival, but of resistance. News outlets across the country covered her story. Advocacy groups invited her to speak. Other survivors sent letters thanking her for giving them hope. But Emily stayed quiet for months after the trials ended. She needed time to heal, to be a kid again. Her mother, Carla, told me Emily had nightmares for over a year, that she struggled with trust, that some days were harder than others. But slowly, Emily found her footing. She returned to school, reconnected with friends, started therapy, and eventually, she decided to use her voice again, but this time on her own terms. By the time Emily turned 16, she'd begun working with child safety organizations. She didn't give many interviews, but when she did, her message was clear: believe children when they say something is wrong. She spoke at conferences for social workers and teachers. She helped draft legislation to improve reporting systems for abuse. She became an advocate for survivors who were still finding their courage. In one interview, she said, "I didn't choose what happened to me, but I can choose what I do about it. And I choose to make sure no one ever calls those men heroes again." Her strength inspired me every single day. The case had a lasting impact on our town. Schools implemented stricter background checks. Churches revised their youth programs. Parents became more vigilant. But some scars don't heal easily. Families of the accused struggled with shame and anger. Some moved away. Others stayed and faced the judgment. A few still insisted their loved ones were innocent despite the evidence. Denial runs deep when the truth is too painful to accept. But Emily's story forced a conversation that was long overdue. It taught us that evil doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides behind a smile, a uniform, or a position of trust. I stayed in touch with Emily and her mother over the years. Watched Emily graduate middle school, then high school. She earned honors, got accepted to 3 universities, chose one with a strong criminal justice program. She told me she wanted to become a prosecutor someday, to help other survivors get justice. Carla was so proud she cried. I was too, if I'm being honest. Emily had every reason to let that trauma define her. Instead, she used it as fuel. She turned pain into purpose, and she refused to let the men who hurt her steal her future. That takes a kind of courage most adults never find. In 2023, Emily turned 18 and gave her first major public speech and national conference on child exploitation. I was in the audience. She stood at that podium with the same fierce determination I'd seen 5 years earlier in the hospital. She told her story, not for sympathy, but to educate. She explained how predators groom victims, how they manipulate communities, how they count on silence. And she urged everyone in that room to do better, to listen, to act, to protect children the way adults are supposed to. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. I saw tears on dozens of faces. Emily had done it again, turned her pain into power. People often ask me what made Emily different. Why did she survive when others didn't? I think about that a lot. The truth is, she wasn't stronger or braver than the other girls. She was just lucky. Lucky that she found a weak board, lucky that a trucker stopped, lucky that she got help in time. But what set her apart was what she did after. She could have stayed silent, gone into hiding, changed her name. No one would have blamed her. Instead, she chose to speak, to testify, to fight. And in doing so, she gave other survivors permission to do the same. That's the real power of her story. Not the escape, but the refusal to disappear. The FBI estimates that Emily's case led to the rescue of at least 9 other girls who were still trapped in similar situations. Her testimony helped dismantle networks in 3 other states. Her courage inspired legislative changes that strengthened child protection laws nationwide. But if you ask Emily what she's most proud of, she'll tell you it's the letters. She gets them from survivors all over the country. People who felt alone until they heard her story. People who found the strength to report their abusers. People who realized they weren't broken or dirty or forgotten. That they mattered. That their voices mattered. Emily keeps every single letter in a box under her bed. Martin Bell tried to appeal his conviction twice. Both times, the court rejected it. He'll die in prison. The other men are scattered across federal facilities, serving their time in isolation for their own protection. A few have expressed remorse. Most haven't. Bell still maintains he did nothing wrong. In a jailhouse interview last year, he claimed he was misunderstood and that Emily misremembered what happened. The reporter asked if he had any message for Emily. Bell smiled and said no. When Emily heard about the interview, she didn't flinch. She just said, "He doesn't get to tell my story anymore." I do, and she's right. I retired from the force in 2022, but I think about Emily's case every day. It changed how I see the world. It taught me that the monsters aren't hiding in the shadows. They're standing right in front of us, shaking our hands, earning our trust. It taught me that children are often the most reliable witnesses, not the least. And it taught me that one voice, no matter how small, can shatter years of silence. Emily was just 12 years old when she escaped that cabin. But her bravery started a chain reaction that saved lives, brought down criminals, and forced a community to face its darkest secrets. That's a legacy most people never achieve in a lifetime. Emily rarely gives interviews now. She's focused on college, on building a future beyond the trauma. But every year on July 18th, the anniversary of her escape, she posts a message on social media. It's always the same. If something feels wrong, say something. If someone tells you they're hurting, believe them. Silence protects predators. Your voice can save lives. Thousands of people share it, comment on it, thank her for it. And every year, Emily responds to as many as she can. She tells them they're not alone, that they're stronger than they think, that their story matters, because she knows what it's like to feel invisible, and she refuses to let anyone else feel that way. The bigger picture is this: Emily's case wasn't unique. Child exploitation happens in every state, every community, every economic class. It hides in churches and schools and sport programs. It thrives wherever adults choose comfort over confrontation, reputation over truth. The men who hurt Emily operated for 20 years because people didn't want to believe it was possible. They didn't want to ruin reputations or cause drama. They didn't want to be wrong. So they stayed quiet, and children paid the price. But Emily's story proves that silence can be broken. That one person's courage can start movement. That justice is possible if we're willing to fight for it. If you take one thing from Emily's story, let it be this: believe children when they speak up. Don't wait for perfect evidence or absolute certainty. Don't worry about offending someone or making a mistake, because the cost of silence is too high. Emily survived because she refused to disappear, because she found the strength to run, to speak, to fight back. But not every child escapes. Not every child gets a second chance. So we, the adults, the protectors, the witnesses, have to do better. We have to listen. We have to act. We have to break the silence before it's too late. Because sometimes, the person who saves lives isn't a detective or a prosecutor or a hero. Sometimes, it's just a 12-year-old girl who refuses to be forgotten. Emily's story needs to be heard. If this moved you, if it opened your eyes, if it made you think differently about the people around you, please hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. A parent, a teacher, a friend who works with children. Because awareness saves lives. Every share could reach someone who's suffering in silence right now. Every view could be the one that gives a survivor the courage to speak up. And every subscriber helps us continue bringing these untold stories to light. Stories that demand justice, that honor survivors, and that refuse to let evil hide in the shadows. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that matters. Because the truth doesn't go viral on its own. It needs voices like yours to carry it forward. Drop a comment below. What's one action you'll take today to protect the children in your community? Let's start a conversation that could change lives. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And thank you for refusing to stay silent. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay compassionate, and stay brave.